Hey, this is Vu, and today we're going to take a look at a player that goes 0-12 on the CT side of Inferno as the pit/apartments player, and he does a few things wrong that I see a ton of players do wrong, and if you do this type of thing, you're never going to find consistent success on the CT side, at least if you're not using the op as a bit of a crutch. Before we go any further, let's talk about our sponsor for this video, Skinport. Skinport is a fast, smooth, and extremely secure skin marketplace with 0% buying fees and only a 12% selling fee. Skinport is the only site without a balance system. You don't need to wait for a balance when you want to buy a skin. You can instantly pay with one of the many payment options available to you. Skinport cash out is instant and very quick with bank transfers to your local currency, and it's a trusted site with a 4.9 out of 5-star rating on Trustpilot from over 2,600 reviews. Skinport has high market volume with over 108,000 skins available at any time, and available skins are far cheaper than on Steam. Check out Skinport today at the link in the description, skinport.com/r/vucsgo. So here we've got Vipidus, who is LEM, and he's, again, the apartments pit player, and he's just, one of the main things he is really scared to take gunfights even when he has the advantage. And this is something I see very often, where players that are at kind of uncomfortable, even at higher ranks like he is here, they're going to avoid straight up gunfights, and they're going to waste their utility and give away their position in doing so. So he's going to get to this angle here. He's really in love with this angle for some reason, and he goes there just about every round of the half, I feel like, and he constantly falls off accidentally, which you typically don't want to be doing. Generally, as a pit player, you want to start most of your rounds on the balcony because you can get free information as to noise, and it allows you to re-aggress. Then eventually you fall back in the pit, but he's doing it a bit early and a bit weirdly. Then he's going to get into this angle here, which is an okay angle. However, usually you want it to be crouching, and you definitely don't want to be tossing that nade, as all that nade does is let your opponent know that you're stuck in pit and you're not on balcony. Then he's going to throw the smoke off of a single kind of just randomly thrown flash when his opponents are clearly in banana and middle, as his teammates have had that information, so they're really not doing anything like an apps pop. And by the time the actual players make their way up lane, he's going to have used literally all of his utility. Now, this round doesn't end up being all that interesting, sorry to get your hopes up, but you can see that he's just highly uncomfortable taking any engagement straight up, and as soon as his utility is gone, you can see he's almost panicking here in pit. So to take a look at how a professional player would play this, we've got Electronic from Na'Vi against Crazy. And he's, of course, the apartment/pit player, and you know one thing from watching this already: Zeus is in the game, so it's a really old game. Anyways, Electronic will quickly make his way over to apartments here and immediately throw that molly. In order for timings to work out, you do need to throw that molly early, and then he's just going to make his way back in a pit. It may have been based off a sound cue from Boomich, but we can't really know for sure, and Boomich does stay here for a while. Now, this angle he has here is actually a very nice angle, because this angle does everything the angle our previous player used and more, in that it also dodges a lot of flashes. Now, of course, if your teammate isn't Truck, you can't play here, but at the beginning of the round, this is a fantastic angle to hold, and a ton of people do, and it works out perfectly for Electronic as well. And then the one thing I want you to note here is the confidence in not throwing this smoke immediately. His opponents tried to apartments pop, he stuffed it, then they threw a lurk smoke out, then he waited, then he threw that smoke for himself there, and that delayed crucial moments for his team to rotate over, and for that smoke to dissipate while he still had the advantage, and that really forces Crazy back and doesn't allow them to hit this bomb site comfortably like they'd want to. Then he's going to end up taking a straight up aim duel a little bit later in the round right here. Now, his opponents are a little bit worried about Arch, so he's got a bit of an extra advantage, but sometimes you do just need to take a straight up aim duel and be comfortable with it. Then quickly pivoting out using his brain, knowing that they're very likely to molly him out. They know he doesn't have a smoke. He moved out immediately, and he plays out the final 2 kills perfectly as well. Overall, most people are going to watch this clip and think, wow, Electronic has great aim. And of course, his aim was very crisp there. but there is more to it. If he hadn't been in good position at the beginning of the round, he gets blind from that flash and likely swarmed, and if he doesn't use his utility correctly in pit, it's very likely he could have gotten mollied or nade stacked and taken down before his team could even rotate over. That was overall exactly how you should try and replicate your pit play. So another mistake Vipidus makes is trying to play spots for his teammates. This is a very common thing I see, especially on Train, may he rest in peace, where Ivy players would try to play outer for their team and hold the entire bomb site for their teammates, which just isn't the way you're really supposed to be playing. What Vipidus is going to do here is, either through lack of faith or lack of knowledge, he's going to be trying to essentially play truck for his teammates. So to begin with, the jiggle here with the molly out, it's not my favorite thing of all time. You know, I feel like good players are just going to rail you here a good portion of the time, but it's not the end of the world if it works for you. But what I don't like is he gets into this position here that he continually gets into, and then rather than being worried about apartments where he should be focusing really, he's going to try and post on boiler at a minute left in the round when his teammates are getting pressured in middle. You need to understand, oftentimes your opponents, when they pressure middle, they're going to then assume that you may pivot to support your teammates and go aggressive on the sides. And that's exactly what his opponent's going to do here. He's going to walk out apartments, get the kill on him, pivot, kill his teammate, and essentially secure the enemy team the entire round. And this is because Vipidus, rather than playing his spot and holding it, tries to play truck side for his teammate in a spot where he shouldn't. I'm not trying to say that supporting your teammates is a bad thing, it's just that your main priority needs to be holding your own spot. When you lose your spot in an attempt to support your teammate, then your teammate has no hope of ever holding his position. All Vipidus needed to do there was either throw a flash from safety or back up the pit where he could have played some utility or something like that. Now, one of the main things I really want you to get out of this video is that you should watch more of my content, but primarily I want you to get out of this video the idea that you need to be kind of rotating setups from time to time and understand that your bomb site is a team spot. It's not just you playing apartments and your teammates playing arch and truck. It's more so that your bomb site hold, and really the whole map in general, is something that should be rotated throughout in order to keep your opponents off guard. We see here his teammate went for a pick with the op in apartments and got a kill, and that will actually make Vipidus's life easier throughout the rest of the half, because now his opponent is going to waste time and utility trying to deal with the potential for an opper to go aggressive when that opper may or may not be there. And that's why sometimes, although the standard setup is one pit / apartments, one truck, and one towards arch side, even though that is the standard setup, you want to do things like tripling up truck or doubling up arch, where you are weak to certain setups, but because you play those, they will now be more tentative about going aggressive in certain scenarios, and it's going to make your life infinitely easier, and there will be rewards for that that you may not even notice on a standard round. Quick confusing jump cut. I just wanted to highlight this little bit you see where Dupree is at the end of halls here, but he's worried about someone in pit. He knows that his team is making pressure, but he's still waiting until Simple gets spotted on the balcony there. Then he goes out knowing that Navi was stacked 3B and he needs to get aggressive and there's nobody in pit. That's the type of thing these setups will do. If a lot of the time you're in pit holding an angle where if Dupree is to make his way out, you simply die to a ridiculous off angle, he's not going to want to do it when you're not there unless you give him a reason to do it by being on balcony and dying or getting spotted elsewhere. Now, when it comes to a normal round, one thing that you do have to understand is sometimes you're just going to take a good engagement and lose. We see Vipidus here, he's holding this angle that we saw Electronic hold in the pro section, and he's holding it a little bit narrow to be fair. I believe this player is going to overpeak this a little bit, but he does just get completely owned. That is going to happen sometimes. It's actually not something you can really avoid, and it's part of the reason that I see people often use the op as a bit of a crutch, because they don't know what engagements they can take, what they're comfortable with, and which ones they can confidently win, and then they just pick up the op and they win all of them, and they never really learn that aspect of the game. Sometimes, rather than using utility, you need to take a straight up engagement where you have an advantage, as Vipidus did there. Unfortunately though, sometimes you're just gonna lose. So one of the things I obviously touched on there is that you want to be moving between different setups for a multitude of reasons. And one of the prime reasons among them is that if you play the same, even if you feel like you're playing a little bit different, but if all your opponents see is the same thing, they're going to get a pretty good read on you and they're going to start trying to hard counter you. Now, Vipidus has been starting out a lot of his rounds in apartments, but he falls back to pits so quickly that essentially, as far as his opponents are concerned, he is playing more or less the same almost every single round. And of course, there are rounds that I haven't highlighted here where he does a lot of the same stuff. He's going to end up in this spot here where he throws that smoke in pit, again, a little bit early, but because there are 3B, I kind of respect it. What I don't love is that he took that shot there when he wasn't really going to get the kill. Someone can throw that smoke from a variety of different positions, and so when it's thrown, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you're there until you take that shot, which really he just kind of randomly shot that gives away your location. Then Vipidus is going to stay in generally the same exact position, and the player, partially because they're winning and partially because Vipidus is having not the greatest game of all time, he gets a little bit over aggressive probably and goes for the kill. However, part of that may well be that Vipidus has constantly been playing the same exact positions and his opponents know it. You can't really say that for sure without more information, but it certainly feels like he has been playing the same positions a little bit too often, and your opponents will, over time, counter that and destroy you. The final thing I want to get across in this video is that you can't play scared even if the game is going poorly. Sometimes games are going to go wrong, and it's not a bad idea to adjust slightly and maybe change things up to get yourself back into the game. However, if you play with a lack of confidence, you will automatically be playing poorly. Confidence is the most underrated aspect in all of Counter-Strike, and you can see Vipidus by this point in the half, he's 0-11. It's kind of understandable that he's going to be lacking a bit of confidence, but he's just doing this weird jiggle towards truck. He lets his opponent out, and his opponent then kills his teammate on moto because Vipidus is so terrified of actually taking the engagement. Then Vipidus is going to continue to hide a little bit here, not really trying to take an engagement, before panic spraying and whiffing on the player coming out of apartments. This is something I really doubt Vipidus would have done in quite that way earlier on in the half. The reality is, once you buy into the idea that you're not playing well and you need to play scared, it is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're almost certainly not going to do well for the rest of the half. Sometimes things will go wrong, and again, changing things up a little bit is a great way to try to bring yourself into the game, but playing scared is not changing things up a little bit, it's making things worse. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. If you enjoyed the content, check out my Patreon. You can get a demo review, patreon.com/fucsgo, or you can submit to the ELO Hell series with the link in the description.